guys have been watching Sweet Tooth on Netflix because it's the #1 ranked show on Netflix. So it's pretty obvious that you're watching it. And if you have been watching it, you are very familiar with the Singh family. And I just happen to have one member of that family with us this week. It's Aliza Vellani, who plays Ronnie. Aliza, how you doing?
Good, good. It's Aliza, by the way.
It is Aliza. Okay.
Yes.
They give you the pronunciations, and you're like, is this Aliza or Aliza? And I'm terrible with names, so I'll chalk that up in the lost column for myself there.
I'm the exact same way, too. I've only recently started reminding myself, you know what? Actually, correct people. Make sure they know your name.
Yes, please correct me.
Yeah, because for the longest time, I actually did just answer to Aliza, and it took the longest time for me to actually say, no, go by the way it's pronounced. It's Aliza. So yes.
Yes. Own that. Okay, well, Aliza, now that the fans have gotten a chance to see Sweet Tooth a little bit, you're going through social media. What's the reaction been like for you?
It's been very surreal. It's been wonderful to just see how much everyone has loved the show, loved all the characters. It's been such a long time in the making that it's so interesting to actually see that people have binged the whole thing in one weekend. So that's been kind of crazy for me. I'm like, wow, you've actually gone through all 8 in just a couple of nights, if not one night.
That's exactly what I did too, actually. But I've been looking forward to this for a long, long time too. Now let's talk about Ronnie and Addie for a little bit, because they have a very loving, very close relationship, even after the Great Crumble too. So what they learned though, and we're gonna be a little bit spoilery here, just to let everybody know, when they learn that she has the sick, that's a very emotional moment for the both of them, obviously. So what was that actually like shooting in that scene where they're making that mad dash to the hospital? Because I can only imagine your adrenaline was just way up on that one.
Yeah, what's even crazier is we filmed that episode and that kind of revelation in 2019. So, that at the time just seemed like it was this larger than life moment, and we were really diving into these incredibly deep and heartbreaking moments, only to find out 6-7 months later that there are people that are genuinely having those feelings and having those fears. So I actually found that it was the aftermath, and it was after we filmed that, watching it back felt a lot harder than actually filming it, just because the emotions were so high, and after everything we had been through in the last couple of years, it just rang so much truer and deeper to what people had been going through.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And what struck me about Ronnie is that, despite everything that's going on with her, she's so positive. She's so optimistic. It's very inspirational, actually. What makes her be able to maintain that energy despite these, really difficult odds against her?
I think the best part about their relationship between the Singhs is that as much as Addie is taking care of Ronnie is also having to do the same for him. He's having so much pressure on himself. So really what Ronnie needs to do in that moment is to keep him going in whatever way she can make that possible. And that really is from being kind and loving and trying to see the positive side of things and being his biggest cheerleader, because there is no other option. It's two of them against really the world at that point, or the world around them.
Yeah, I actually wanted to dive into that a little bit deeper, because you're talking about how much pressure he is under, and it really is, and it just increases, it seems like, as the days go on, just trying to find that cure. So I think that the show does a really good job with the balance of like saving his wife, the ethical lines and that he might have to cross, but talk about a little about how that affects their relationship on screen, because I feel like you can actually see that too.
Yeah, there is that constant tension of a conversation that they can't really fully flesh out, because they know that they need to find a cure. He wants to save his wife so badly, yet it gets to the point, and again, spoiler alert, it gets to the point where they have to make choices that they don't think they can make, but they might have to. So you see that constant tension throughout the season of them really deciding, are we going to take that next step? And are we going to be comfortable with the repercussions afterwards? And are we still going to love each other after the repercussions afterwards? Because there is a little bit of sacrifice there that one has to make more than the other. And you need love more than anything if you're going to cross those lines. So we had to dive into those conversations and really try and find the best way to have those conversations when we were getting into those scenes and make sure there was always love at some point in the conversation.
And you guys nailed that for sure. There's no question about that, because there definitely was. Now, your story is obviously, I say separate from Gus's journey, but I mean, it kind of isn't, but you know what I'm saying. But I'm sure you're familiar with the story, and of course you were part of the show and on set. So what was your favorite thing about Gus and what Christian actually brought to that character? Because I just love it.
He's amazing. I was amazed at how similar the two are, the character and Christian himself. He is such a light and energetic person, and he's just always trying to have fun, meet people, and just keep everything so alive on set. So even if we weren't sharing storylines, you just got to know him because he wanted to get to know everyone, and he wanted to make sure that we were all having fun together. I mean, we even had, sour candy wars when he was trying to see who could hold the most amount of sour candies.
I love that.
And I won, by the way.
Oh, yes. Awesome. Well done.
Because I love sour candies. So I will say that he really just made the whole show such a pleasure to be on.
Talking to Aliza Vellani, who plays Rani Singh on Sweet Tooth, which you can stream right now on Netflix. I feel like this is really important, Aliza, because we've all heard the saying that people fear what they don't understand. And I feel like that is a really big part of this sort of story. So how do you feel like the show deals with that issue as a whole?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is that, Jeff Lemire created these comics, starting in 2009, and it rings so true to where we are now, which is so interesting. But what I love that Team Downey really wanted to do, and so did Jim and Beth, is really create this show with the purpose of healing everyone as we've gone through something very traumatic and really has changed all of our lives around the world. And this is a show that allows us to acknowledge that and then try to heal in some way, try to connect, try to understand who we are as human beings and the choices that we're making, and understand that we are human. And I think that that's what this show does so beautifully, is it acknowledges that without trying to really, wag its finger in the process. It isn't about that. It's about the story. It's about the characters. And you really get to see it through the eyes of a child like Gus and Sweet Tooth, really.
Do you feel like there's also a lot of real life aspects to this as well? Because I feel like that's kind of where you're going with that. Because I mean, you've got the nosy neighbors, and that really gets turned up to 11 in a situation like this, right? You've got the small pleasures in life. So do you feel like this show actually does bring a lot of true life things to light as well?
It definitely does. It's actually quite interesting because I had recently gotten married when I first came onto the show, and when all of us started isolating and quarantining, I actually found that, my husband was working from home and we were just in our space, in our little place, just the two of us. And you really start to see how you get to know the person that you're with 100% of the time. And you see that also in the town that the things that are in, is that you really only end up trusting that one person that you're in that space with. And granted, I have much better neighbors than the Singhs do.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully. But it really just brought to light, how we start looking at our own communities. And I think the Singhs storyline really showcases that, is when you do see a group of people really isolate themselves, what is really there? How do we try and find a sense of community to keep moving forward?
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now, one thing that really interested me about the show is how it really turns back the clock on modern society. I mean, Addie rides a horse. You've got people playing charades and cooking everything from scratch, which almost never happens anymore, it doesn't seem like. So was it kind of strange living in that tech-free type of environment, or do you feel like it was almost like a breath of fresh air in a certain sense?
Definitely the breath of fresh air. It felt like going to camp, but it was the best kind too. You found that there were so many creative ways that they tried to show this world, even just in the corner of the Singh's home, just seeing a stack of DVDs, just to the roof. And so the attention to those details, you sit there and you go, oh yeah, if the internet did go down, if all of these things did happen and you just kind of had to go from scratch, what would still be left and what could you actually do? So I loved that. I felt that it was so true to even when, back in March of 2020, what were we all doing? We were baking bread and we
Yep.
were starting a garden. We were going back to those moments. So, the creators really went back to that and put that in for the Sings as well, which I loved.
I'm just impressed that they were able to find that many non-flat screen TVs. I thought that was, I mean, I don't know how they did it. I don't know if they went thrift shopping or something, but hey, I was surprised.
Must have been an adventure, that's for sure.
There you go, no doubt about it. Now, I want to actually go outside of the show here for just a second because, I was looking at some of your past work. You actually got to play the voice of Miss Marvel and Marvel Superhero Adventures. And how much fun was it to play that character? And I just couldn't help but notice you and Iman just happen to have the same last name. So is that a coincidence? Is that like the mother of all coincidences, or is there a relation there? What's happening?
It truly is quite a coincidence. I don't think either one of us actually thought that was in the plan at all. So when I started playing Miss Marvel for the animation, it was so much fun. And then we did hear that Disney was going to create that show. And when the announcement came that Iman Vellani was going to play Miss Marvel, the amount of messages that I actually got from family asking if we were related somehow and if I knew. And I had no idea. I had so many aunties and uncles just saying, okay, is she related to us somehow? Do you know? Is there an inner circle of actors with the last name Vellani? And I truly had no idea, but I'm so excited for her. I'm so excited to see the show. I'm sure she's just loving every minute of it.
The degrees of things that would have to happen, though, for that to line up. I mean, but the fact that your family was asking you, I think is the most hilarious thing ever.
Yeah, and she's Canadian, so why not?
And she's Canadian, right? Exactly. I don't think she's from Vancouver, at least, though. So
no, she isn't.
So
she's from the other side.
That's where it stops, right there. That's the Vancouver connection, was where it ends. Sticking in the Marvel realm here for just a second, you mentioned the Downies, Robert and Susan, and they served as executive producers on the series. What kind of a perspective do you feel like they brought to Jeff Lemire's story, and along with Beth and Jim, who are, of course, are no strangers to superhero stories themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Team Downey, they've been working on this project for such a long time, and you can tell that the story really meant a lot to them. They loved what the story represented when they read the comics that Jeff Lemire created, and they wanted to bring this story to light and have it be this family-oriented kind of show. And you really saw that. They were so involved in the process as well. When we were working on set, we'd also hear that they were looking at the dailies and, what they were feeling about the show, and it was all very positive. So you really felt this collaborative experience from Team Downey, even though, we were in New Zealand and we were under different conditions where you couldn't exactly have producers come in and out to see how everything was going. So it really was from a very distanced type of collaborative experience, but it was very collaborative and it was so positive. And that just means so much when you're working on a show of this caliber. You want it to be this positive, beautiful experience. And you can tell that Jim and Beth and Team Downey made sure that happened.
Yeah, it definitely rang through for sure. Before I let you go, Aliza, obviously fans are already looking forward to a possible second season. We haven't gotten the good news about that as of us talking today, but what would you like to see if the show actually got a chance to return for a second season?
Ooh.
Of course, we won't spoil the ending of season 1. We won't talk about that. But
I won't spoil the ending, but I think what would be so great for season 2 is just to explore more of the world. I mean, they already did so much of that, but you could see that there is so much more and so much left for the characters to explore in different parts of the Sweet Tooth universe. So if season 2 comes around, there's no doubt in my mind that you'll see a lot more adventure ahead.
No doubt about that. And if you haven't finished season 1 yet, or if you haven't started, get on that. Watch Sweet Tooth right now on Netflix to find out everything that she's got going on. Oh, wait, this way. She's got going on and everything that's just so wonderful about the show. It's Aliza Vellani. Thank you so much for joining me this week.
Thank you so much for having me. I had an amazing time.